Alright, Moto Chimp here. Still in traffic as usual. I want to talk briefly about my bike. Got an Aprilia Shiver. It's a 750cc V-twin. It's a great bike. I got it a couple of years back. I test rode a lot of different bikes at the time, and I was getting rid of my old bike, and I had an Suzuki SV 650, which is a great bike. I'm a big fan of the V-twins, and that's a great bike to, whether you're a beginner, whether you know what you're doing for the track, whatever the case might be. The 650 is an awesome bike. And I got I never really planned on getting the Shiver. I looked at a lot of different bikes. Looked at a Hayabusa. I'm a taller guy, 6'4". So I looked at some bigger sport bikes. I've always had sport bikes, and I just happened on this thing. What's going on here? My lane is not moving. What's this fucking guy looking at? So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, I just happened on this bike. Took it for a ride and absolutely loved it. Fell in love with it right away, and I can't really say that about any bikes I've ever had. It's got just a ton of power. It doesn't have a big upper range, right? It doesn't have a lot of legs, right? So it'll probably, it may do 140 maybe on a good day downhill. But man, it has so much torque. It's got the ride-by-wire throttle, which if you haven't ridden a bike that's ride-by-wire, it's really just all electronics. There's no throttle cable like a traditional bike, which makes it a little jumpy. It will penalize you severely for fucking up. Just put it that way. I haven't had any real issues yet, but this is I would say it's not a beginner bike. Competitors are the entry-level monsters, and I did have an opportunity to ride those. And I'm a big Ducati fan, so all the Ducati haters don't hate me for saying this, but you get a monster if you want a Ducati, and you can't afford a super bike, right? That's when you get a monster, and they're great bikes, and I honestly considered it, and I looked at it. The difference between a Ducati Monster and an Aprilia Shiver, it's like the difference between a Corvette and a Camaro. It is, and I'm not a fan of either one of those, but it feels like a real motorcycle. Whereas the Ducati, it felt like an entry-level Ducati, if that makes any sense to anyone. So this guy's gonna let me in. So, like I said, I did ride both of them, and the Ducati's a good bike. I also rode the Hayabusa, and at first I was going to get a Hayabusa because I'm such a bigger guy. It's a heavy bike. It's incredibly fast. What I didn't like about the Hayabusa that I looked at is it had the shorty pipes, and I appreciate a nice sounding motorcycle, but goddamn, if you're riding around in a Hayabusa with shorties, which is basically just open pipes. It is the most obnoxious thing. It's just synonymous with douchebag Harley Davidson rider, right? You criticize, the guys with the loud Harleys. A Hayabusa with shorties is just as bad, if not worse. So I met up with the guy, and I turned the bike on, and I had my girlfriend with me at the time. As soon as we fired that bad boy up, it was an absolute no-go. I mean, like I said, I can appreciate a loud motorcycle, but that was just unnecessarily loud. So she vetoed that one as well. Actually, I didn't even want it after that. I mean, it rode great, lots of power. The guy had a lot of additional bells and whistles, but that bike was not for me. And then I was gonna look at some other bikes, a couple of Ducatis, and I happened on this and said, yeah, I'll go out, I'll give it a ride, and we'll see if I like it. Getting ready to go into the Holland Tunnel here. And I fell in love with the bike the minute I took off. I mean, it is a real motorcycle. It's got 3 different settings: sport, touring, and rain setting. I only played around with the rain setting, but you ride around in sport or in the city touring. I have it on sport right now. I don't know why. It's a pain in the ass when it's on sport sometimes. Sport will give you 100% of the fuel and the power to the bike. The downside is, especially in city riding, is it will make the bike extremely twitchy. So you have to have good throttle control. Touring is probably cuts the power by 20-30%, I would say. And it makes commuting, if you use this bike as a commuter, it'll make commuting comfortable. And then rain is really kind of sluggish, right? It's where you've got absolutely no power. It just prevents you from going squirrely in bad weather. Like I said, I have yet to really do any riding with that. You can change these on the fly. There can't be any power going to the rear wheel when you do it, but as long as you don't have the throttle engaged, you can always change it to a different mode. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I heard some people that reviewed the bike say that they'd rather have the ability to change to the different modes, regardless of throttle being open or closed. I don't really care. I mean, and then the other thing is that it looks so unique. I'll have to take a video when I get off or something on what the bike looks like, but the Aprilia Shiver is such a unique looking bike. It's got some classic Italian styling that I really liked. It doesn't look like anything else on the road. I think a lot of bikes are imitating that look. I think Kawasaki's got I forget which model, but I think they have a nice naked bike look. And then of course the Ducatis have a very iconic Ducati look. And again, I'm a huge Ducati fan. But this was my Italian mistress in this case, just because it felt, compared to the Ducati, which was second place, this felt like a real motorcycle. I mean, where you have real power and handling and just everything you need out of a bike. It really does everything. There's nothing this bike won't do. Doesn't have a windscreen. You can get some aftermarket, windscreen or parts to it, but and you can get an aftermarket exhaust as well. I didn't do any of that. I didn't even get the windscreen, although I rode it 1,300 miles across country. But it will perform for you. So that's my take. It's not a beginner bike. and you know, just be forewarned. I think the latest version, the 2014 version, they toned down the bike a little bit. It's not as jumpy as it used to be, from what I hear. I've yet to ride the latest version, but whereas the Ducati, you know, the 6, you can ride that as your first bike. I mean, it's a very good beginner bike. But this one will it'll you know, it'll get away from you. So you have to have good throttle control to ride this bike. And that's really the reason I bought it, of all the bikes I looked at. And it even beat out the Ducati, which is